Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality, a show designed to share spiritual insights with you so that you can comprehend the universe and how it functions. You are about to experience raised consciousness. This is a place where spiritual principles are shared with the goal of assisting you to expand your understanding of both the seen and unseen worlds. Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality helps you to discern the timeless truths handed down from wise sages through the ages, from the airy-fairy nonsense that is being taught today. Now, here is your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth.
Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality, the radio show that disseminates esoteric knowledge and common sense spirituality. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, creator of Namology Science, the ability to know all about a person's personality and their soul's purpose simply from a person's name. Now, the beautiful inspirational music you just heard is part of the music Shine by Dee L'Amour. And you can hear more of her music by visiting DLamour.com. That's DLEMOR.com. And the music Shine is available at all streaming platforms. And you know that we always close our show with it because I absolutely have fallen in love with that music. Now, our topic today is the 7 rays and what each one represents. As discussed, a ray is referred to as a particular force or type of energy with a certain quality that it exhibits. So when we discuss about certain ray energy, basically we are considering that quality and the purpose aspect of the great life who is known as the Lord of the Ray. Now, his divine intention, will, and purpose create a radiation and stream of energy that affects all forms of manifestation life within our planetary ring past knot. Now, a lot of you guys may not even know that there is a ring around the whole planet in the universe, and there is something that's called a ring past knot. So we hopefully will get to that also. If not, we will definitely cover that on another show. Now, according to Alice Bailey, different aspects of truth can be seen through the 7 rays. Each ray sees things differently and has its own way of doing things. Each ray has a different opinion. That's another way of saying it. So, our special guest today is Sandy Anastasi. Now, Sandy's been a professional psychic and astrologer since 1979. She holds a BS degree from Adelphi University and has teaching certifications in absolutely incredible number of fields. In addition to teaching, Sandy has worked as a safety engineer and owned her own small bookstore for many years before retiring to become a full-time psychic counselor, a writer, and a teacher. So she's really not retired at all. So Sandy's writings include books on astrology, Kabbala, and Tarot, as well as psychic development. She's internationally renowned psychic channel. Sandy Anastasi has established herself as one of the preeminent teachers of our time. With more than 30 years of experience, Sandy's a leading expert in psychic development, astrology, and tarot. And through Sandy's classes, workshops, lectures, and appearances, she's able to share her knowledge to help people enhance their lives. Now, she's got a retreat coming up at the end of this month that's going to be really exciting in South Florida that we want to make sure that she gets a chance to talk about. She was, just to mention also that Sandy was a significant contributor to psychic medium John Edwards' website, infinitequest.com, which launched back in 2009 and provided valuable insight along with some of the nation's top metaphysical teachers for over 3 years. She's appeared on many radio and television shows over the years, most notably Crossing Over and Cross Country, both television shows hosted by her good friend and former student, John Edward. So I could keep going on about Sandy, but I'd just like to bring her on so we have maximum time to talk about the 7 rays. So Sandy, welcome to Luminescence.
It's a pleasure to be here. As always, Sharon, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, always my joy. Okay, so you came into the room a little bit after I'd gone through just a little bit of background on the 7 rays, which was totally insufficient compared to what you can do. So first, let us tell, what are the rays and how do we know they exist before we get into each one?
Those are 2 interesting questions. First of all, what the rays are literally energy rays that come through from outside of our universe and permeate our universe. How do we know they exist? Well, for one thing, Alice Bailey, whom probably a lot of your listeners have heard of and maybe even read books that have been written by her. Alice Bailey is the first one to write about the 7 rays. And so most of the material that I work actually comes out of her work. My favorite book by Alice Bailey is called Ponder on This. It's a compilation of all of her works in one volume. So if someone wants to just get started with her work, which is a little archaic, she wrote around 1925 or 24 in that realm, so the writing's a little difficult to follow. But the information is absolutely phenomenal. This woman predicted things that are going on in our world right now. And one of the things she predicted and worked with was the 7 rays. She was the first one to really talk about them. Now, if you get into both astronomy and you get into physics and quantum physics, you discover more information that you can correlate to those rays. So I'm convinced that they do exist. Now, what Alice Bailey told us is that these rays of energy, you could think of them as rays of origin. They come from outside of our universe, but they give life to the universe. Your listeners who understand what the chakras are, the psychic energy centers that are in each one of our bodies, and of course all animals have chakras as well. Our Earth itself has chakras. Well, each one of those 7 rays would correspond to a chakra in the human energy system. So as each one of those rays comes in and energizes in its own way, it energizes those chakras, those glands that belong to those chakras. It gives life to our physical universe. As those chakras, as those rays come in and with their energy energize those chakra systems, they evolve. They cause us to evolve and to grow to our next level. Now, out of the 7 rays, right now, 6 of them are already here, are already developed, evolving. The 7th is in the process of fully manifesting. It's not completely here yet. Now, something that your listeners are really going to want to know about, because I certainly would if I were first learning this, is how do I know how these rays apply to me specifically? Well, Alice Bailey tells us that the 7th ray, I'm going to work backwards here, which corresponds to your sacral center and the spleen. Well, she tells us that that 7th ray actually comes through the signs of Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer. So if any of your listeners are one of those signs, they're going to find themselves resonating to what that 7th ray has to deliver. And they're going to have a lot of emphasis on their own sacral center. That's the chakra that's 2 inches below the belly button, the navel. That particular ray, if you're into astrology, is ruled by the planet Uranus. And when I say ruled by, the best way of seeing that would be that it is energized by that planet and its energies and how it functions, but it also relates most strongly through that planet. Now, each one of these rays, and I'm going to come back to this, each one of these rays has, and I saw you mentioned this in your write-up on this when you sent out your newsletter, which I thought was great. Each one of these rays has an ascended master that guides the operation of the ray as it goes through the universe, and especially as it comes to our planet. And I know, some of your listeners are really open to the concept of angels and masters of the universe who are going to, beings who are out there helping us. Others are somewhat skeptical of it. I would say that don't let that bother you. If the term master or angel bothers you, just see that as a higher force or a higher power that gives conscious guidance to the ray. And that'll help you to be able to put, okay, well, I don't believe in that person out of your mind and not worry about it. But I'll get into the people a little bit more. The important thing is the ray itself comes into our universe, focuses its energy through 3 different planets, and then that energy in 3 different signs, one planet and 3 different signs, and then that energy comes together to focus on our world and helps that particular chakra in we humans to evolve so that we can get to our next level of consciousness. So with the seventh ray, it's Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer that are most affected. With the sixth, and by the way, the seventh ray is ceremonial order. And just to clarify, ceremonial order doesn't mean like, okay, I'm in church doing rituals. Ceremonial order talks about how everything in the universe functions together just perfectly. For example, what holds the cells in your body together? What makes all of your body systems operate together smoothly? What makes our planets move around our sun in just the right timing and speed? That's what they mean by ceremonial order. It's far deeper than just going through a religious ritual or some kind of other ceremony for graduation or something like that. Now, the sixth ray, which is ruled by the planet Neptune, that's the important planet, and Mars. So that has two rulers. And it focuses its energy through the signs Sagittarius and Virgo and Pisces. And it connects to your adrenal glands and your solar plexus center. And so that energy of that sixth ray comes together to help that part of our being and also that part of the planet to evolve and move to its next level. The sixth ray talks about idealism and devotion. I'm going to come back a little bit later and talk about the masters and the angels attached to it, because it's very interesting with some of these rays how you'll recognize some of the non-physical beings that after they moved to a higher level themselves stayed to help the rays to manifest in the right way on this planet to raise our consciousness. The fifth ray is called concrete science. The planet, only one that's important for that, is Venus, and the signs it focuses through are Leo, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. So it focuses its energy primarily through those three signs. It corresponds to your pineal gland and your third eye. So if those things are very sensitive and focused for you, or if you're one of those three signs, then that fifth ray is going to be really important to you. And the fifth ray is all about concrete science. That means it's about math, it's about chemistry, it's about the things that are totally measurable in our world, concrete science. The fourth ray is ruled by the planets Mercury and the Moon, so there are two, and it comes through the signs Scorpio and Taurus and Sagittarius. Its correspondence is the root center, which connects you to your gonad glands. That's your sex glands, okay? We talk about the fourth ray, and boy, oh boy, is this fourth ray important on our planet in today's world. It is called, or at least Alice Bailey called it, harmony through conflict. And we've certainly, in my lifespan, we've gone through the entire last 60 or some odd years, constantly in our world, creating conflict only to bring harmony out of that conflict, which tells you what the fourth ray is all about. And what does that conflict do? As many people who are in the New Age field say, when you see the opposite, you see the things you don't want, you get to choose and understand what you do want. That's what conflict is all about. It brings things out in the open. It brings them out from under cover. It's not just about choosing sides. It's about recognizing the whole and making sure that you're in the position that you want. So harmony through conflict does have a place in our world, not just war, okay? It's far, far greater than that. The things that create conflicts in your life actually cause you to grow into what you do want instead of putting up with those things that you don't want. Now, the third ray is corresponding to your throat center and your thyroid, and that would be both the parathyroid and the thyroid. It's the ray of active intelligence. Literally, it's how your mind works. It's your social activities. It's the kinds of clubs you want to join. It's how you involve yourself in the world around you by your choice. Its ruler, surprisingly, is the planet Saturn, and also the planet Earth that we walk on itself. And the signs that it moves through are Cancer and Libra and Capricorn. So That, obviously, that third ray is a very important one, because we would not have any kind of socialization, social interaction, or ability to interact with one another as a species, and we wouldn't even interact with other species without that ray of active intelligence. The second ray is ruled by Jupiter and the Sun. It is the ray of love and wisdom. I love this ray, love and wisdom. I also think of it as a teaching ray, because almost every teacher and coach I've ever met has a very powerful second ray. It focuses its energy through Virgo and Gemini and Pisces, and it activates the heart center, and the gland is the thymus. Now, the last of the rays, and the reason I left it for last, is because the first ray is not fully manifest. It's ruled by the planets Pluto, which still has, questions in the astronomical community. Is it a planet or not a planet? I still work with it as a planet. And also the planet Vulcan, which people in the astronomy community argue whether Vulcan actually exists or not. Vulcan has actually been spotted twice. It's closest to the sun, and it's very difficult to track, so they're not sure if it is a planet because it's within the corona of the sun. What's said is that when Vulcan becomes fully manifest, when it becomes fully trackable, the first ray will be fully manifested. And it's actually a pretty good thing that the first ray isn't fully manifested right now, because the first ray is the ray of will and power. Lots and lots of your listeners have heard the stories about yogis in the desert, for example, Sai Baba, putting his hand out and manifesting an object that one of his visitors needed on his palm and saying, "Is this what you're looking for?" When the first ray is fully manifested, all of us are going to have that capacity to be able to manifest the things that we want instantly. Now, in my mind, I just imagine that mankind's not quite up to that yet. I could just imagine everybody having 15 cars in their driveway.
Even though nobody needs it. Okay,
right.
So that's a good breaking point for our first commercial break. Please stay tuned. We'll be back with Sandy and the Rays right after this break.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Just by being here, you've shown that you are an action taker and committed to your own growth and transformation. You believe that within yourself, you have everything you need to fulfill your dreams and overcome your life challenges. But how do you access all that? Sandy Anastasi is a psychic, astrologer, coach, and creator of the Anastasi system of psychic development. She has your answers and a special offer for new clients and students. When you sign up for her free newsletter, you'll get a special gift that will help change your life. As thousands of people already have experienced, she will get you there. Go to www.sandyanastasi.com to sign up for Sandy's newsletter now.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Welcome back to Luminescence. I'm Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Sandy Anastasi. And as you heard, her website is her name, Sandy spelt the normal way, Sandy. And Anastasi is spelt Anastasi. And we were talking we'd just gotten into a little bit of the first ray before our commercial break, and that was being able to manifest just like Sai Baba. I saw him do that when I was in India at his ashram. It's just incredible. But you were talking about everybody might have 15 cars in their driveway. Anyway, Sandy, back to you.
That's I guess I'm being a little bit too 3D here, but honestly, I can envision that if where mankind is, generally speaking, in our evolution right now, we would, if we had that power to manifest every thought in our mind. Most of us don't have the clarity even to be able to focus on one thought consistently. So Lord knows how much junk we'd all manifest that we really don't need or want. We're learning about that right now. One of the things I think is absolutely wonderful is over the last, maybe, this is a long while now, 30 years, we have been, or even longer, we've been learning about the art of creation and manifestation and how to focus your thought patterns to manifest and create your world. And in today's world, almost everyone understands that not only is that possible, but how you think and what you put your attention, your energy on is very, very important, because you're going to live that in your life. Well, that is an example of that first ray starting to come in. So if it was here completely, you'd think it and it would be in your hand. So it's not here completely, but we're learning to focus our thoughts. We're learning to be consistent with our emotional focus. We're learning to recognize that whatever we put a whole lot of energy and thought power into is going to manifest in our world. But for most of us, thank goodness, it's not instant yet. We have a little lead time to decide if that's what we really want. So, I can get into all kinds of jokes about that, but I won't. I don't want to bore your listeners with it. But I've known people practicing the art of manifestation and manifesting the wrong man in their life and saying, well, how did I do that? So we're really learning how to do this. When we are, I'm going to use the term grown up enough to be able to sort it out and be sure we're focusing on what we really want and need, well, that's when the first ray is going to be available to us completely. But in our future is the ability to do just what Sai Baba does and to be able to manifest things at will. Now,
I would imagine as people are starting with that we would overcreate, overdo it, over whatever, and then realize you don't need all this stuff and it's just in your way, and then start saying, how do I uncreate?
and Sharon, I really think that's happening in our world right now already. I think we're right where you just said. Now, I didn't finish telling your listeners the signs that the first ray focuses through, and it still does, are Aries and Leo and Capricorn. So, folks, when I talk about the signs these rays manifest through, just how does that affect you? Well, in the case of the first ray, that's activating the crown center and your pituitary gland. So people who either are Aries, Leos, Capricorns, or have a lot of that kind of energy in their astrology charts or in their characters, people who have a real strong Pluto presence, because that's the planet that is here and manifest already. Those people are going to be people who are more assertive, who are more likely to have a goal and go after it and expect it to be delivered immediately. And I'm sure you all know people like that. when you have a first-rate person in your life, believe me, you know they're there. They do not go gently. Okay? And of course, each one of us, depending on what sign we are astrologically, we will find ourselves, for example, I'm a Gemini. So Gemini is one of the signs that is helping to activate the second ray on our planet. So automatically, because I'm a Gemini, I'm going to be drawn to Virgos and Pisces, who are the other two signs that form that tripod of energy that focuses the energy into manifestation here. Do you see how that works? So we kind of work in groups, and we might be pulled together with people who are those other signs that manifest in a particular ray, because some activity is happening, or something is being developed or created on the planet, or there's a new invention that is going to require our combined effort. So we may come together with those other people just for that job and then go on our own. Now, sometimes we'll be together with those people for life, and we're helping to manifest that ray here and to develop it and to help to evolve it. And guess what? Every single one of us is doing that. So whether or not you're consciously aware of it, my friends, you have a very important spiritual job on this planet that helps every single day of your life the planet to evolve and to grow right along with the rest of humanity. Isn't that exciting?
That's very exciting. So is it your understanding, Sandy, that our planet, the planet Earth, has a soul and is developing and growing just as we have souls and are developing and growing?
Oh, absolutely. Sharon, if I'm going to, deliver this next comment gently. I was maybe in my teens, and I remember standing in the kitchen with my mother, and I'm drying dishes, and I went to close the wooden closet door, and in that moment, I had a feeling of my cells merging with the cells of the door, and I know some of your listeners have had that same feeling. It almost felt like the door was mushy, and all of a sudden I realized that that door, in its own way, dead wood, had consciousness. It knew my hand was there. Odd, very odd. And I said to my mother, thought I was crazy. I said, "Mom, did you know that the closet door can feel me?" And she looked at me and said, "Just dry the dishes." and so I get where she was coming from. It was a little too much for her. But ever since then, I have looked at everything, whether it's a plant or a rock, the chair that you're sitting on, as having some rudimentary form of consciousness or awareness. And of course, everybody here who's a scientist and employs the scientific method, see, feel, and touch, is going to say, "Oh, this woman is really batty. Let's not listen to her." But I do believe that at some point in our evolution in the future, we're going to realize that at a molecular level, what holds the molecules together into a particular shape is consciousness.
Well,
yeah.
I remember when my brother-in-law and older sister were studying in college, and they did a lot with TM meditation and studying with the Maharishi. They literally showed me that they could walk through walls, and I remember just being shocked and going, "I want to be able to do that." And of course, I always ran into the wall, but because I didn't have that same understanding. And I think some of it's a belief also. You've got to believe that it's possible first before you can do it.
And I think what's following that, Sharon, I think the belief is important. But what happens is that what you believe, what your mind is thinking, the fact that you're relaxed and you're not resisting whatever it is that you're experiencing, the fact that you are open to it and that your mind is moving in a direction that merges instead of puts up resistance. And I think when you have all those things going together for you, we humans have a capacity to move into an entirely different state of development. This is what the rays are all about. The rays bring this energy of higher development in with them. We humans in the future aren't going to just look at a green bush and see green. we're going to be looking at this psychedelic green with 1,000 different subtle shades of green, and we're going to see the dimensions of each leaf and the way light wraps itself around each leaf when we look at that bush. I.e., our physical senses that we know now are all, and some people that are listening to this are already having that experience I just described. Our physical senses right now are evolving to a new level. And why is that? It's because our third eye right now, and remember I told you that the third eye is connected to your fifth ray, concrete science. Well, that third eye, as it develops, takes our vision and gives us a greater ability to see more different shades, more dimension, more depth. It's pretty amazing. This is part of mankind's evolution. And the more that ray is able to permeate and energize and give life to each individual that it bathes in that energy, and the more you're open to it and merged to it or with it, the more you're going to be able to raise the consciousness of that experience. So in the future, we're going to see with greater clarity. We're going to hear, we're going to listen to a symphony, and we're not just going to hear the beautiful music. We're going to hear every single string, every single horn, every single note separately in that musical composition. We're going to hear the words and the thought patterns that that person who wrote that composition was thinking while they wrote it.
That's kind of exciting and almost scary at the same time, because you think, do I get to have private thoughts, or is everything going to be able to be heard?
Now you're talking about my department. Remember, I'm a psychic teacher. Okay? And there are two things, Sharon, in my psychic development program, the Anastasi system of psychic development. Right from the very first class, I am teaching students ethics, and I am teaching students protective techniques. They go hand in hand. Because, you see, in the future, we most certainly are going to be able to read each other's thoughts. But you have, and we can do that right now, at least many of us can, you have surface thoughts and you have deep thoughts. A deep thought is something which is just coming to your own awareness. So it's almost, let me explain to your listeners, and everyone can do this. You know how when you think of something, for example, you're passing the grocery store and all of a sudden you think, oh, I have to get a loaf of bread. But the way it goes in your head is you almost feel the thought in a subtle way that doesn't involve language, but it's the same words, but you're not hearing the language yet. I have to get a loaf of bread. That's the deep thought. And then you say to your conscious mind, oh, I have to get a loaf of bread. That's a surface thought. Then finally it comes out of your mouth to the passenger in the car, and you say, I have to get a loaf of bread. Well, if that passenger is psychic, they heard the surface thought. When you said it to yourself, they heard it. So the surface thought's the one you're saying to yourself. The deep thought's the one that just comes to awareness, but hasn't been verbalized even to yourself internally yet. So surface thoughts can be read right now by people who have developed telepathy skills. Surface thoughts are easy to read.
Well, I think that's just being sensitive to other people.
Yeah.
And then you feel that same vibration that they do. And so I think that's what makes those easy to read. What concerns me, though, on all of this is that sometimes a thought will come to my head, okay? And then I think, cancel that thought. I choose not to think that way. I would rather believe this way. And it's a very conscious thing. And I'm thinking, I don't want that first thought to radiate out when that's not the thought that I really choose to have.
What's really interesting on that is that when people begin to understand that before the surface thought comes to awareness, there is a deeper thought. And when you recognize the deeper thought and the surface thought, it's at that point that you can say cancel that first thought, and the deeper thought never comes to surface awareness. It gets buried and said, no, I'm not going to use that thought. Do you see that? So awareness is where it's at.
Okay. So I think all of this is absolutely fascinating. And I want to ask a question about Alice Bailey. Okay? because so many things are upside down today. And she brought us these wonderful rays, and she brought us a lot of other information. And because her books are printed by the Lucifer Trust, people are saying nowadays that that's part of Satanism and you ought to dump out everything that she said. How do you respond to that?
Well, the only way I possibly can. Lucifer is just a name, for one thing, okay? There are kids walking around in the world today who are named Lucifer. Does that mean you're not going to be friends with them because you don't like their name? Okay. And I'm sure that, when Alice Bailey was writing her books, she had absolutely no idea who was going to publish them, and even that they would be published over 100 years later and still actually in circulation. Frankly, I'm grateful to the Lucifer Trust that they are still getting the books out there, because those books are highly important. I've done a whole lot of work, because I'm an astrologer, with the rays, but also Alice Bailey didn't just write about astrology and the rays. Alice Bailey wrote about social things in our world. She actually wrote about things that probably will not fully be understood for maybe another 200 or 300 years. She was that far ahead of her time. And what a lot of your listeners probably don't know about Alice Bailey is that she did not understand the things that she was writing. Alice Bailey was a channel. That's all she, I'm not saying all in a diminishing way. That's all she was. She wasn't a telepath or a psychic. She didn't do psychic readings. She didn't belong to any major crazy organizations. She didn't do black magic. She was a housewife. And every day she went into her little back room for a couple of hours, and some other old lady might have been taking a nap. Alice Bailey was sitting there going into trance and channeling this information from the ascended master Joel Kuhl, who in an earlier incarnation was Pythagoras, and also in an earlier incarnation was St. Francis of Assisi. So she was channeling information, okay, from St. Francis of Assisi. Does that sound like Lucifer? Okay. And Pythagoras? Okay. And she didn't understand a word. When she'd come out, she'd have these piles of paper, and she'd bring it to her publisher. And the information, some of it was so right on, which is probably why, for those times, which is probably why it got published. Other information was very, very obscure. Her language is difficult because, you see, she didn't change exactly what she was getting. It was written the same way she received it. So she was the telephone operator to a master on the other side who needed to get information out, be human beings, so that we could evolve and become better people and have a better understanding of how to get through, guess what, the times that we are living right now. Alice Bailey talked about them.
Okay, so we're going to talk about them too right after this next break. Stay tuned.
Lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. The why is hidden in your name. Sharon Lynn Wyeth has created a scientific way of deciphering your name to reveal your contract for this lifetime. And your name even specifies the 7 areas that are subsets of your soul's overall goal. Your name identifies who you are to both yourself and others. What does your name say about you? Contact Sharon Lynn Wyeth at info@knowthename.com for your stunning name review.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at eji.org.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. You are with Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest is Sandy Anastasi. And again, her website is her name. Sandy is spelt the normal way, S-A-N-D-Y, and her last name is A-N-A-S-T-A-S-I, and then it's .com. So, Sandy, you were just saying that Alice Bailey even wrote about things that would be occurring at this time. And my next question for you is literally, how are the rays affected during this time period versus that time period? And what did Alice Bailey say at that time that could help us now?
Well, first of all, the rays aren't being affected by us. The rays are affecting us. Believe me, when something is on such a massive, grand scale, are you affecting the sun, or is the sun affecting you? I guess is what I'm saying. You see?
Right. Good point.
Yeah. So the rays have absolutely no, they're not, if they have consciousness themselves, and they probably do, it is on such a magnified scale, so far beyond our capacity to comprehend, that we would be like an ant trying to appreciate the scope of the universe to be able to understand even one single ray. They're that incredibly massive and permeating of everything. So they're going to do what they're going to do, i.e., their effect on the entire universe is inexorable. We cannot change it. We are evolving whether we want to or not. Okay? And for some people, maybe that doesn't feel good. For others, it's, heck, yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Now, looking at individuals, one of the most interesting thing about predictions, and remember, a lot of the things that came out in Alice Bailey's work weren't just about, how the universe is formed and how we all relate to each other. And she talked about all the different races of man. She talked about the evolution of man. She talked about so many different things that are incredibly interesting. She wrote 26 thick volumes, small print of work. So believe me, it wasn't all just astrology. Okay, and the astrology she talked about was spiritual astrology. It wasn't mundane astrology at all. She had no interest in that. Schwal Kuhl wasn't giving her that information. Now, why is her information important to now? For example, she wrote about the New World Order. She said there will be a New World Order. And guess what? She wasn't talking about the world order that the rest of the world right now is jumping up and down and saying, first of all, we're going to have a new world order, or those people are evil, or that's evil. Alice Bailey and the information she was channeling could have cared less about that. When she was talking about a new world order, she was saying the seventh ray of ceremonial order is coming in and reorganizing, guess what? The molecular structure of everything that exists. Okay?
Wow.
They're not getting it right. Okay? They're thinking of it as a political thing. She wasn't talking about this political stuff. Okay? She was literally talking, every word was talking about the future of humankind, which is magnificent. What we're going through right now, and have been going through really for the last 100 years since she was writing, since World War I actually, all this stuff is from the point of view of what she was writing about, it's a hiccup. She was writing about thousands of years worth of evolution of our planetary system, of humankind, of literally the origins of life. She was giving deep insight and understandings into how everything in our universe works, and many, many, many of the things she wrote about, if you read them, they just make no sense. You can read the same paragraph 20 times, and I have found that when I hit a paragraph like that, I need to read that paragraph before I go to sleep. And when I wake up, something inside of me now understands it. I might not be able to explain it to anyone, but I get it, okay? So a lot of her work I've had to feed into my subconscious to be able to understand. Her work is that deep. Many people have gone into Alice Bailey's work, and particularly into the rays, and have looked at it from their own point of view and written their own books. And some of those books have validity and are very interesting. But realize that if you're reading her work paraphrased by someone else, even me, secondhand, you're not reading her work. And her work is the origin of the information on the 7 rays. So if anyone's really interested in them, maybe you've read work by a different author that makes sense. Maybe you've read stuff on lighting and the 7 rays, or human personality in the 7 rays. It's amazing how those 7 rays have gone into all different kinds of literature. If it interests you, go back and read what the person who initially wrote about it had to say about it. And do, like I said, read it a couple of times over. If you still don't understand it, read it just before bedtime and let your subconscious absorb it while you sleep.
You know, that's such a wonderful idea. And, you know, they used to say that put the book underneath a pillow, and sleep on it. Yep. But after I've been meditating a long time, on those nights when I go to sleep, I will literally wake up with excitement because I can tell I'm reading a book. And I'll grab that book, and in my dream or in that state, I can actually see the page and the words and the whatnot. And when I get so excited because I'm reading in my sleep, I will wake up, that ruins it. But anyway, I'll go grab that book, and literally on that same page is that same paragraph. And we really are reading in our sleep.
You really are. You really are. And I've also, on that same concept, I've had the situation where I'm in my sleep or in a meditation, and my mind goes into a book, and I get information that I need for a project that I'm working on from that book, and then I go to tell somebody about it and find it in the book for them, and what I was reading didn't exist, and yet it did the job of what I needed and had researched in that book. So what happened? You see, through reading the book, I accessed the author's mind and got that information, sometimes many, many years after they had even passed. So
wow.
Yeah. Yep. So you're doing that too. We all have this, Sharon, we all have these superhuman abilities. We all have them already. And they do manifest for us. They just don't manifest with consistency, on command, and all the time. Okay? But we're already there. And so many of us on this planet right now are developing at this breakneck speed. We're seeing clearer, we're hearing clearer, we're thinking more clearly, we're making connections between different people and different things that we've never been able to make connections to before. It's just absolutely amazing to watch humankind flower and unfold and grow the way it's happening right now. In spite of everything else that's going on in our world, maybe even because of it. Remember, one of those rays is harmony through conflict, and always harmony through conflict brings a spurt of growth. That ray is one of the rays that creates the conflict in order to bring it together and create a growth spurt.
Well, we are definitely having the opportunity to do that. As I always say, look at everything as an inconvenience. If you don't like it, it's simply an inconvenience. Sandy, tell us real quickly, as we're running down in time, about your retreat that's happening at the end of this month.
Well, one of the best parts about the retreat, Sharon, is that you're going to be there.
Yes, I'm excited about that.
Folks, if you want to actually watch Sharon give a lesson live about mnemology, she's going to do that at our retreat. That retreat runs from September 30th through October 3rd. I was going to put a whole month in there. That was wishful thinking. September 30th through November 3rd. No, there I did it again.
October 3rd.
October 3rd. I just want to extend it, Anyway, it's 4 days. It's over the weekend. Starts Thursday and Sunday. It's going to be on Sanibel Island in Florida. All the information's on my website. That's www.sandyanastasi.com. You can go there and register. The hotel might, if you're lucky, have a couple of rooms left, but they do tend to sell out, so you might have to stay off island and just come in for the events. We are going to have everything from Sharon's numerology to me giving a discussion on tarot. We're going to have singing bowls for healing. We're going to have a little magical, mystical, spiritual healing ceremony on the beach. We're going to have wonderful gatherings, a wonderful dinner together, gatherings by the tiki bar, gatherings in the hotel restaurant. What else are we going to do? We're going to have a psychic fair. And that fair, if you live on or near Sanibel or the whole Fort Myers area, that is open to the public. So if you want to come and get us a numerology reading in person from Sharon, you'll be able to do that. We're going to have a tarot reader. We're going to have somebody who's doing astrology. So we're going to have a group of people who are doing psychic readings at our little psychic fair. Sandy, that's me. I'm going to be doing a rare messages session. The reason I say rare is that although I do a lot of teaching and speaking, I rarely stand up in front of large groups and talk to dead people. But I am going to do one of those rare messages sessions that Sandy only does at our retreats. And so that's about the only place in time that you're going to get to see me do that. And it's fun, and I can show you how to do it. We have a lot of fun doing it.
And it's incredibly inexpensive. The real expense is getting there in the hotel. The actual retreat is unbelievably inexpensive. And with that, we are out of time. Know again that we're so appreciative of you coming and joining and wanting to raise your consciousness and to hear us and taking your time to listen. And as always, we end our broadcast with Dee L'Amour's song, The Shine. This is Sharon Lynn Wyeth signing off.
So long ago, gazing in the mirror, an image of an angel smiling back at her. No wounds or imperfections, just beauty and its glow. Her laughter and her heart, a reflection of her soul. And I want to shine like the sun and smile to stop the rain. And I want to dance with the wind and believe in dreams again. Of life stroke the canvas of her, the light slightly dimmed, her reflection unseen, and all that she knew, and all that would be, it vanished like the sun rays on a shimmering